Find the products or quotients. We are given 2n cubed minus 5n squared minus 6n plus 15 over 3n cubed plus 2n squared minus 9n minus 6. That fraction divided by the fraction 2n cubed minus 5n squared minus 8n plus 20 over 3n cubed plus 2n squared plus 12n plus 8. We'll begin by changing this problem into a multiplication problem. So we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction. Therefore, the first fraction will stay as is. We have a 2n cubed minus 5n squared minus 6n plus 15 all over 3n cubed plus 2n squared minus 9n minus 6 times the reciprocal of the second fraction. So denominator becomes numerator. 3n cubed plus 2n squared plus 12n plus 8 as the numerator, and 2n cubed minus 5n squared minus 8n plus 20 for the denominator. Now notice all four of these positions, the numerator, denominator, all four of those positions all have four terms. So we're going to factor every numerator and denominator by grouping. So looking at the first fraction, we're going to group the first two terms together, factor out an n squared, and we're going to group these last two terms together and factor out a negative 3. So first two terms, factor out an n squared. We are left with 2n minus 5. 2n minus 5. Last two terms factor out a negative 3, and we are left with 2n minus 5. Denominator, grouping the first two terms together again, we're going to factor out an n squared, and we're left with 3n plus 2. And grouping the last two terms together, we will factor out a negative 3. And we are left with 3n plus 2. Let's do the same thing on the second fraction. Numerator, group the first two terms together. We're going to factor out an n squared. So we're left with 3n plus 2. Grouping the last two terms together, we can factor out a positive 4. And we're left with 3n plus 2. Denominator, grouping first two terms together, factor out an n squared, and we're left with 2n minus 5. And last two terms, we can factor out a negative 4, and we are left with 2n minus 5. We're not quite done factoring yet. We have to take a look at each of these positions again. First fraction, numerator. We have a common factor of 2n minus 5 that can be factored out. So we have 2n minus 5, and we are left with the factor n squared minus 3. N squared minus 3. Denominator, we have a common factor of 3n plus 2. Pull it out, 3n plus 2, and left with n squared minus 3. Second fraction, numerator. Pull out 3n minus 2, factor out 3n plus 2, and we're left with n squared plus 4. Denominator, factor out the 2n minus 5, and we're left with n squared minus 4. So there we have everything factored completely by grouping. And now let's see if we have any common factors. We have an n squared minus 3, n squared minus 3. We have a common factor of 2n minus 5, 2n minus 5, and also a common factor of 3n plus 2, 3n plus 2. Writing what we're left with across the top, we're left with an n squared plus 4, and the denominator, we are left with n squared minus 4. And we cannot cancel out these n squareds. Those are not factors, those are terms. Factors are only separated by multiplication, so we cannot cancel out the n squareds there. It's tempting to do, but please do not do that. Final answer, n squared plus 4 over n squared minus 4.